Welcome Pilot, I'm Fernando Z, developer of Hunternet. In my last update video, I asked the community what we might do to change the name of Hunternet from Hunternet Starfighter to maybe Hunternet something else, or maybe keeping it as just Hunternet. I explained the reason behind that change in the previous video. We got a lot of comments and feedback from the community, and I'm very grateful for that. I read every single one and also discussed it with the startup team. We still haven't made our final choice, so if you have any suggestions and you haven't already given us your feedback, then please leave a comment on this video. Most likely, I'm still thinking that we'll go with just Hunternet on its own, but Hunternet something else is still in the picture, so let me know what you think. Since the last update video, there have been well over 300 changes to the game. In this video, I'm only going to cover the most important change, which was the carrier jump gate support, and also highlight a few of those changes that I thought were particularly interesting. If you want to see the full change log, then I recommend visiting either our Discord channel's devlog channel or the Steam forums where you can get the full detailed list. The main focus of the update cycle was adding carrier jump gate support. This was one of the last technically challenging things left to add to the game. So I wanted to work on it as soon as possible to minimize risk for the project. That's sort of my general approach, do the hard things first. And the reason this was particularly challenging, even though we already have had jump gate support for small ships in the game for quite a while now, when you jump a carrier, it can involve multiple players and multiple clients, and there's a lot more data that needs to be transferred. So this is why in a lot of games you'll see problems when you're doing jumps involving multiple people instead of just jumping on your own, and Hunternet's no different. So I tackled this problem, and I'm happy to report that it's working really well now. So a carrier commander can now jump a light carrier through the jump gate network, and that will also jump all the fighters that are docked on any of the decks. It will also include any ships that are stowed within the carrier, and even in the case of Hunternet, all the players that currently calling that carrier their home and are offline, plus the entire state of the carrier, all the resources it carries, the turrets, the state, and so forth, all that is transferred smoothly from location to location, and it's working really well. Well enough that it's time to move on to new areas of the game. I will be returning back to carrier jumps and long distance travel in the future because we have two additional classes of carriers planned for the game, medium and large carrier sizes, and those carriers will be too large to use the jump gate network, so they will be able to use what we're calling a full burn for long distance travel, and I'll be implementing that in the future. Some of the other interesting things that we worked on and play tested this cycle, where we introduced two new pieces of equipment in response to the sort of the behavior and the flow of battles that we saw in our persistent battles and our simple economy battles. Those are the Quantum Tracer, which is equipment designed for scouting the enemy and getting more detailed information as to their economic status, helping you decide when it's a good time to attack or defend, for example. The Pulse Scanner, which is another scouting tool, in particularly when performing combat air patrols, and it really helped make the whole flow of battle around torpedoes and torpedo bombers going out to attack carriers and searching for them, intercepting them much nicer. We also did some tweaking and balance changes for torpedo bombing because one of our players came up with what we called the Amogus Maneuver, which was basically a smart way of doing a kamikaze attack. And I wanted to make things like kamikaze attack, high risk maneuvers to be, something you could do from time to time, but it was important not to make it too effective. So we tuned that, and I'm really happy that how that turned out. We also reworked fighter-borne short-range missiles. In the old system, their main uses were in distracting your target while you flanked them, or as a distraction to help you escape. Using SRMs did not require as much skill, but avoiding them was also easier. The real skill was in the opportunities they created. Now, missiles are limited to 4 radar and can only make a single pass, but you can enhance their homing by carefully tracking and painting the target. Both systems worked, but the new system leads to more intense combat. I'm really happy with how they turned out, and I highly recommend all backers check them out. We also tweaked the crash damage model. It's more dangerous now than before, so that, especially when mining and flying around asteroid fields, it creates an increased sense of tension. It's still designed similar to the old system in that it's not a guaranteed death, because I want variable outcomes. I don't want every time you get into a crash for you to die. But it's been updated and also tweaked how crashing into things affects your shields. So really cool stuff there. It makes flying around more intense. It makes limping back home and doing a combat landing on the carrier a lot more exciting, especially if your shields or your hull are already low. Another important change that I want to highlight is I did a big upgrade to Unity. Up till now, we've been running on the Unity 2022 version, and now we're upgraded to the latest and greatest Unity 6 version. So that was a big change that required quite a lot of changes to get everything working perfectly, but we're done with that. I also implemented a much improved data link system. This is a system that allows you to share sensor information between your wingmen, your carrier group, your carrier commanders, between carrier commanders. There was a basic version of that in the past, but the new one is a lot more useful, interesting, and it's really had a positive impact and made the whole sensor contact, sensor e-warfare more interesting. There was also quite a few major code refactorings and performance improvements, low-level stuff, but still things that pay dividends going forward. And I also worked on things like a new rating system for the persistent universe, a new server-side alert system that is going to be really important to keep people up to date about what's happening in the persistent universe 24/7. And I also did a Steam ID test integration, which we'll be using for what we're working towards now. So for this next development cycle, the focus won't be one big technical thing like last time that the carrier jumps. Instead is a variety of smaller game mechanics changes, all with the same end goal in mind. And what that end goal is to get us ready to have our first ever Steam playtest. So if you check the descriptions or the messages below, I plan on including a link to a sign-up form where you can register to apply to join our Steam playtest. But when that'll happen is still too soon to tell. The goal of this development cycle is to add enough features to our persistent test universe so that the wars that are running 24/7 run smoothly enough that we are ready for a broader test on Steam. Now, this playtest on Steam we'll start with a small playtest, selecting for people who filled out that form. And the kind of updates that I plan on working in this next development cycle are a proper space station system. So we're implementing space stations in the game in a much more advanced form than the very basic one we currently have in the Harvester test location. Improvements to the economy system. You can think of this economy version 2. It won't be the final economy system, but it'll be significantly step up over what we have right now. We'll probably do some sort of deployables and mechanics having to do with the flow of combat. Because Hunternet's persistent wars are running 24/7, it's very important that if an enemy faction attacks something valuable like a space station or a carrier, there's enough time for the opposing faction to respond in kind. So there's going to be a lot of little tweaks having to do with the flow of combat in the persistent universe. And we've already done our first persistent test wars that have been lasting about a week or so. But in order for those to work, because these game mechanics haven't been implemented yet, we've been having to rely on certain house rules. For example, you could only do certain things during the playtest, and during the week it's more about preparing for the end of the war. So it'll be a series of small gameplay updates like that to get the persistent wars, that big loop of build, mine, conquer, working in such a way that I feel it's ready for testing outside of our backer community. So that will be the focus in this next development cycle. At the same time, I've had several conversations with our startup team to get all of us on the same page, and Box and Ivan in particular are working on some really interesting things. I'm recording this before adding the footage in the background, but you should see here some footage of what Box is working on, some previews. He's been working on an amazing update to the light carrier, because previously when he did the light carrier model, back when we did the crowdfunding campaign, the carriers were meant to be things that you could build and you could give commands to, but it wasn't meant to be another player flyable craft. And now that it is, he felt it was important to redo the model to make it, to increase its quality so it holds up better when you're commanding it. And he put a lot of work into this remodel, and I'm really excited to get that into the game. And there's going to be some really cool surprises of new features that are being that are going to be unlocked because we have this new carrier model. And then Ivan is going to be working on a new set of backgrounds that we'll be playtesting as those are available, because right now all the locations you see in the game are placeholder locations. But for the final iteration of the game, or at least the final version for Steam Early Access, we want to create a series of locations that as you jump from location to location, they really give you that sense of travel. So we'll be prototyping different locations and different paths through our solar system to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's going to be happening in parallel to these game mechanic updates. Now, the main thing I'm focused on is on the game mechanics. The aesthetics we'll get as much as we can get in time for the first Steam playtest, or they might come on the second Steam playtest, because the plan is to do a series of these Steam playtests to get us ready for an eventual Steam Early Access launch. So that's it for this update, guys. If you're interested in Hunternet and would like to join in on the weekly playtests and get access to the game 24/7, you can back us on Indiegogo on our website, hunternet.gg. If you're interested in the game, follow us on Steam. And if you would like to get a chance to participate in some of these Steam playtests, then please apply by filling out the form in the description below. And until next time, pilots, good hunting, and see you in the game.